let's just briefly look through in a little bit more in detail. So first, second shloka onwards, the Lord tries to wake him up. He tries to shake him out of the tamas state. And he almost like criticizes him. He tries to give him almost like a strong wake up thing, more like as a good friend. If you have a good friend and if you're doing something which is not helpful for you, a friend who cares for you, he will try to warn you, right? He will try to wake you up. So similarly here, the Lord does that, tries to shake him out of that state. He almost teases him. You are behaving like almost like a eunuch. Uh, and at this critical time, when you are asked upon to do what you have to do, like if somebody is like a great sports person, he's been recruited into that team, and if that moment when he's supposed to go and play, do his thing, if he says, I will not play, then that criticism comes, right? Whereupon this condition has come upon you. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam anarya justam asvargyam akirti karamarjuna. Like, where has this come about? What has happened to you? This is not like a person of your status. From there, and then he criticizes him, but Arjuna gets a little shaken, but not completely. He starts putting in a few more points why he feels he's justified to not fight the war, not do what he is. But he's shaken up a little bit. So then he kind of realizes that I can't figure this out. This wonderful transition state in one's life. When we come to that realization that I cannot figure out everything, no matter how intelligent I am, that I am limited. My intellect is limited. It cannot lead me to that supreme happiness. I need help, especially the help of realized masters, scriptures, teacher, and all that. So then he comes to this shloka where he kind of begs to he begs to the Lord and says, Yet Shreyasyan Nishchitam Bruhitan me. Shloka 7. Tell me what is good for me. Tell me what is the higher path. Shreya, what is the higher path for me? Not what I think is good, but what is the spiritually evolution kind of path for me. Shishyasteham shadi mam tvam prapannam. I am your disciple. Meaning he takes refuge, as we all know, until the point we take refuge in some higher teachings, in some higher parampara of rishis and gurus. Until then, that pride is there, which will not allow wisdom to come to us. That blessings, that grace, we all need grace in our life, right? Because without that grace, we will not make progress. Constantly, we will be subject to our karma, our obstacles, one after another, they will keep coming. So when a person is ready like this, then he asks for that thing. So he says that, I don't see what is the right thing to do. Please remove this ignorance from, I'm caught up in this ignorance. So that awareness has come that the state of tamas, the state of depression, it is deluding me. So what does tamas do? Tamas is of the nature of delusion. Rajas is of the nature of pride. But they both work together. When that pride is hurt, then one falls into delusion. So if you look at the chart also, that state of that once that person gets caught up in the desires, rajas, then the anger comes, the rajas again. When that rajas is caught up, then one falls into tamas. So from rajas, tamas is inevitable. And tamas at some point will also stay within that realm of rajas only. So this Sanjaya concludes this by saying, I will not fight. This is what Arjuna has said, and in a way, the one who is listening to this, who is the main listener of the commentary by Sanjaya? Who is listening to what Sanjaya is teaching or is commenting on?
Dhritarashtra?
Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is that blind king. So Sanjaya is narrating to him. And more likely, Dhritarashtra is happy because he wants his son to become victorious. If Arjuna doesn't fight, then it's almost guaranteed that the Pandavas will lose. So that is why, this point here is a transition. Then here begins the teaching. So Shankaracharya says here, where until now Shankaracharya doesn't make any commentary. So some places people have written about it, the first chapter, and how the first chapter is a battle between the good and evil happening within every one of us and all that. But Shankaracharya is not commented. He says until now he was like babbling. He was just muttering like somebody who is like a drunk person, shokamoha, he is deluded. He doesn't know what he's talking, that kind of thing, Lord. But now the Lord says, the Lord doesn't directly start the teaching. The Lord says and points out to him, Ashochyananvashochastvam prajnavadansha bhashase. You are speaking like a wise person, as though you know everything you are speaking. Because you're talking about dharma, you're talking about that if this happens, then people, I will go to hell, I'm doing adharma, all that you're talking, as though you exactly understand that scriptures. Gatasuna gatasuncha nanushochanti panditaha. The wise will not grieve for the living, nor for the dead. So this is a fundamental transition point, that the Lord is going to talk about the supreme reality. The supreme reality is not concerning the body, about the mind, or about the jiva, that which we call as my individuality, that sense of self, that also is a relative one. So the Lord is giving a hint. That person who grieves for that is doesn't understand. Then the teachings begin, and especially starting from 12, he starts that shloka that where he gives that pointer that there was not a time that I was not and nor you were, meaning that relatively one life is not what my teachings is about. So the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, although it has a lot of practical points, it can only be appreciated from the context of reincarnation, which is fundamental, that philosophy of karma, that karma siddhanta. If you don't understand, then it is hard to appreciate the teachings of Gita. So then he talks about how the stages. A boy moves into adult to old age to rebirth. So this is a cycle of life. The samsara is like that. So changes are always happening. And what is causing unhappiness? The contact of senses with objects. Matra sparshas to kaunteya. When my senses perceive an outer world. So this is what we say, srishti, drishti, srishti, vada. So in Vedanta, there are two things. There is a concept of there is creation, and then there are all of us. Then there is another philosophy aspect which is called as drishti srishti. If I see the world exists. Meaning, if I experience the world exists. So this is more like a evolved thing. Whenever I contact the world, then some thought of the world will come to me. Raga, dvesha, happiness, sorrow, cold, heat, all this experience. The moment I give that reality to that world. So then he goes on to say that shloka, especially from shloka 16 to 21, they are the heart of Sankhya Yoga here. Starting from nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubayorapi drishtontas tvayanos tattvadarshibhihi. The real, unreal has no existence. There is no non-existence for the real. huh? And the reality of this, the meaning, the truth of this, what is real, what is unreal, is known by Tattvadarshibhihi, the one who sees the truth, who is able to perceive the truth. That person alone can see the reality. So this is a very key shloka where the style of Bhagavad Gita teachings and scriptural teachings also is like this, where it almost seems like contrary, but it is pointing to one at the relative reality and ultimate reality. So it seems like they're conflicting that statements. But this is the from a relative perspective, the teaching is given, but it is pointing to that ultimate thing. So then he goes on to say, Avinashi tu tad viddhi yena sarvamidantatam vinashamavyayasyasya nakaschit kartumarhasi. So the nature of self is indestructible. It cannot be killed. Nothing can kill that self, that pure nature of consciousness cannot be killed. Why it cannot be killed? So then he goes on to explain all that. Antavanta ime deva, the body will die, but the soul will not die. And that the one who thinks he's killing or he's killed, that person doesn't know, because that self is beyond all these things. And then the very famous shloka, which also comes in Katopanishad, or we can say the Lord takes it from Katopanishad. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vayana bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The self was never born. If something is born, then it is subject to die. That nature of self itself is never born, but that jiva, thinks that it is born. That jiva is that reflection of that pure consciousness. It thinks that it is born. And then he starts a little kind of relative teachings on the jiva. Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya. Just as a person changes clothes, the jiva changes many clothes. One life it can be a man, one life it can be a king, another life it can be a poor man, another person it can be a very intelligent person, another person it may. So all this different, and animals, birds, all this life, that jiva undergoes. But the nature of the jiva also, nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyopo, na shoshayati marutaha. Weapons cannot cut it, fire doesn't burn it, water doesn't moist it, wind doesn't dry it. All the four elements that we experience, nothing can affect that. So all that teachings is given, and then he moves on to explaining about. He says how this nature of reality is so unique and so special that not everybody understands it right away. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyah ascharyavat chainyamanya shrunoti shutvapyenam veda nachaiva kaschit. So this thing is a wonder. Somebody speaks of it and somebody hears of it, yet none truly understand it. Now he goes on to this thing about what is a kshatriya's duty. He talks about the dharma shastra. There is the moksha shastra, dharma shastra. So both of them are there in Gita. But the dharma shastra is not for getting punya papa, not for getting merits, that you can go to another loka, or you can see what is punya papa. Punya papa will help you also, in certain things of this life sometimes, but most importantly afterlife, next life, or higher lokas. That is why we call it as adrashtapala. So from that perspective of adrashtapala, what do we have to do? We have to do our swadharma. So this topic of swadharma, we looked at it, where our actions, what is our duty in our life. At any point in our life, we have a relative duty. There is a higher duty, which is to realize ourself. That is also swadharma. but there is a relative duty also we have to fulfill, and that is based on swabhava. Whatever our inclinations are, whatever our tendencies are, based on that we do swadharma, our duties, then those vasanas get purified, our tendencies get purified. And so that was goes on until nearly about shloka number 37. And 38, he concludes, as I mentioned already, this very important shloka, which explains that fundamental philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, samatvam. How do we manage, how do we learn to maintain equanimity? One of the main points of your Bhagavad Gita teachings. How do we be equanimous in our life? Happiness, sorrow, good, bad, all that is happening. Huh? Do we just go everywhere and pray that only good things happen to me? No, that is not how Bhagavad Gita teaches. Of course, we want relatively good things to happen so that we can be in a good space to learn and study, but not for the sake of enjoyment. Not that I want only happiness and I want to enjoy that. So the greatest mental state is that of equanimity. And then he says, until now I've taught you about Sankhya. Now learn about Buddhi Yoga, meaning that Yoga Buddhi. What is Yoga Buddhi? Is that how do I execute actions with wisdom? So the Buddhi Yoga, we have to take it as Yoga Buddhi, meaning that what is an attitude of a yogi? How does a yogi live his life? A yogi, meaning a person who is a true practitioner of yoga. When we say we are yogis, right? We have to live according to that wisdom of yoga. So that teachings that Lord is going to give here. And he says that, swalpam alpasya dharmasya, shloka 40. Even a little of this, if you practice, it will help you at the greatest time, fear you experience in your life, fear of death and all that when it comes. This will protect you. More than Lord saying that, sometimes from Bhakti Yoga, the Lord says, you have to think of Lord when times of fear, right? So that is also true. But what is that which enables you to even think of Lord or think of the knowledge? Is that when you have become a yogi, you have done a little bit of this dharma, then that grace, we talk about how, if you've done seva, if you've done your attitude, your work with that pure attitude, whatever work you have done in your life, that will invoke that grace so that at the greatest time of your need in your life, get your most difficult time in your life, that will help you. Salpam alpasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Hmm? Okay, and then he talks about being determined, being single pointed on the path, not moving around. So that vyavasayatmika buddhi. Okay, and then begins the teachings about karma yoga. One of the key shlokas of karma yoga, he mentions here, karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhu mate sangostva karmani. Shloka 47. It's a very important definition shloka for karma yoga. And then he talks about the two fundamental definitions for yoga, karma yoga again, but more what is yoga? Samatvam yoga uchate. And then he say yoga karmasu kaushalam. The equanimity is yoga and skill in action, being skillful in your works. That is also yoga. And and then the 52, that shloka 52 is what happens when you do karma yoga. What happens when you do your actions fulfully? You get chitta shuddhi. So that chitta shuddhi is mentioned here where the Lord mentions Shruti vipratipannate yada stasyasi. No, sorry. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatita rishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shutasya cha. 52. When your intellect causes the delusion, you shall attain to that state where you will not be confused. Even people will say one thing, Shruti, the scriptures will say one thing, the Guru will say one thing. One day you will think this is right, other day you will think this is right. See, all that is where we don't have the purity of mind. So sometimes, people like say, okay, I was listening to Vedanta, then I started hearing somebody talk about something else. I think that is a better path. Or sometimes, people say, like, I listen to some atheist, they were so convincing, so I don't feel any more inclination towards this. See, all this is where there is no purity in the mind. We will one day, we will think of that one day. So that nishchayatmika buddhi is not there. Okay, the purity comes through karma yoga, bhakti yoga, seva, and all that. Shruti pratipannate yada styasyasi nischala samada vachala buddhis tada yogama vapsyasi. Then the shloka 53, when your intellect is no longer this, then that phala, then you are ready for this jnana, that samadhi, the state of being abiding in that. So when he talks about that samadhi, that jnana, then Arjuna asks this question, Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, sthitadhir kim prabhasheta, kimasita vrajeta kim. So what is the nature of the Sthita prajna? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he sit? All that he has. So in three shlokas, the Lord gives the overall definition. What is the characteristics of a realized person? So especially the shloka 55, yada prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atman yevatmana tushtaha. This is a very important phrase. Atman yevatmana tushtaha. The self is content in the self. This is the fundamental difference in a person who has realized. Sita pragnyas that uchyate. And then the further thing is he's not shaken when there is sorrow, and nor is he overexcited when something he wanted to get, he gets. Vitaraga bayakrodaha stitadhir muni, because his intellect is stable. And he's able to look at everything without attachment. He's not overly attached to anybody or everything. So sometimes there is, some students, they're very excited, they will come, then after a while they will go. So I learned this from our Acharya too. So everybody, has their own ups and downs. You think like, oh, this sadhaka he will do. But now the state is that, for us as a sadhaka, we have to be attached to the teachings, the teachers also, if we can, to some extent, from a sattvic condition. And so those are the attachment that is allowed for a sadhaka, because if you don't attach to higher things, spiritual things and all that, then you will get attached to worldly things. So this is where, the first thing, staying in spiritual places, retreats, being with the especially teachers and all, these are the helpful props for people on the path. And then he talks about the self-control. Why is self-control very important even for a realized person? That is why we call, a person sometimes who realizes the truth. According to scriptures, if somebody has realized the truth, that person will take to what is called as vidvat sannyasa. So there are stories like stories of Yajnavalkya in Brihadaranyaka. He was already a realized man. He was already teaching King Janaka and other person as a grihastha. He was already teaching. But once he realized that I have to walk the path of scriptures, even if I am realized, for the sake of society, for the sake of um, abiding by that scriptures, honoring that scriptures. So he takes to what is called as vidvat sannyasa. Vidvat sannyasa means that person is already realized. But still he lives in that state. Of course, sannyasa from Bhagavad Gita perspective is that inner renunciation. So that is the more important aspect. But you have to live a life where you are not caught up in the senses. So that is why the Lord talks nearly about 10 shlokas or 11 shlokas from 58 to 69. What is that nature of that? And especially he explains that nature of fall, that shlokas 62 and 63. Very practical. How do we work with things in our life? So the first thing is to avoid thinking of objects as favorable, as desirable, as contemplating on them. The Dhamma we say, putting objects away, then not allowing the mind to contemplate on it, the Kshama. The Kshama Dhamma. One that is there, then we don't go on the Dhyayato Vishan Pumsa. The person will not think of objects. Okay, so that teachings goes on until 69, and 69 he concludes. The Lord concludes on 69 that topic. And then we looked at it in the last few classes, the phala, that nature of one who has realized. He attains that peace. Okay, so this is the Sankhya Yoga teaching. This is a very fundamental chapter. It establishes the foundation. And it is also the whole essential principles of Bhagavad Gita is in this. So this is the almost like the second largest chapter after the last chapter. This chapter and the last chapter are the have the whole essence of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, different finer aspects of each of this will come in different things, branched from the Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and all that, Karma Yoga also. So the next we will look at the Karma Yoga chapter. Okay, so